Alright, so today we're going to be talking about planetary magic. Let's get into that. So, planetary magic is the wonderful act of invoking the planetary powers and asking them for various things. And by asking them, depending on which planetary power you're using and which spirit you're using, asking is a strong term by itself. Demanding is a stronger term for some and appropriate for others, and vice versa for begging. Some planetary spirits you ask very nicely, like planetary archangels, and some, like the planetary demons of Agrippa, you kind of send to go do that, and they do it because you're being a Karen on them, and they have to agree with you and do what you say because you're being a spiritual Karen. More on that later. I personally love astrological magic, and I personally love magic based on planetary powers, because planetary powers, you always know what you're going to get. If you do a ritual with a solar power, you always know how it's going to go. You do a ritual with a Venerian power, you always know how it's going to go. Martial, same deal. Mercurial, same deal. Continuing on, you go through the entire list, it's the same thing. You know, you've dealt with one planetary power, you know how it works. You know that planetary power inside and out, then you can go work with the other ones. Now, people will recommend you work with specific planetary powers in a specific order if you're new to planetary magic. Now, I personally love to fuck up my own personal order when I'm doing a new system because I like to fuck around and find out if I'm in a controlled situation. So, the regular orders are Moon or Saturn first. We're going to assume you're doing Moon. It's the opposite order. So, Moon, then Mercury, then Venus, then Sun, then Mars, then Jupiter, then Saturn. And if you're going working down and you're doing Saturn first, you do Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon. You pick one of those orders to initiate yourself, as it were, into the planets, and this will lead to you gaining more knowledge and understanding, and depending on which spirit you ask to initiate you will greatly change your results. Now, if you ask the Archangel of the Moon, who is Gabriel, I'm not giving a full spiritual list here, you can Google it. If you ask the Archangel of the Moon to initiate you into the sphere of the Moon, that will look significantly different than if you ask the Olympic Planetary. Why is that? Well, there are different degrees to which a spirit is angelic, or, the more higher celestials are going to initiate you in a more soft way. And if you ask the Olympic spirit, the Olympic planetary spirit of the sun, or of the moon, it's going to initiate you in a much more visceral way. If you ask the planetary spirit from Agrippa, that's going to take your head, dunk you in, and waterboard you with the planet until you are fully initiated, and that will fully saturate you, and that's why we don't work with those. Except when we do. More on that later. Typically, when people are doing ceremonial magic, the first spirits they will work with in a planetary context are the planetary archangels. These are wonderful. I fucking love the planetary archangels. The Archangel Michael is great. I did an entire ritual manual on how to evoke the Archangel Michael. Link to that in the description. That was last month's. This current month is a love ritual, which link to the Patreon down in the description. Back to the topic. I fucking love the Archangel Michael. The Archangel Michael is great. The Archangel Michael is fantastic when you're working with a solar spirit for the first time, because he is the Archangel of the Sun. Now, this is different from the, if you are familiar with the Hermetic Kabbalah. The Hermetic Kabbalah, the Hermetic Tree of Life, will tell you that Michael is associated with the sphere of Hod, which would technically make him Mercury. Ignore that. When it comes to planets, he switches with Raphael. And Raphael is the Archangel of Tippereth, but the Archangel of Mercury. And there is some reasons for that is way too long and way too complicated, and I'm not getting into it in this video right now. That's for your own personal gnosis on why that is, if you feel so inclined as to ask. It's a very weird question that they are very, it's a whole thing. The other planetary archangels that people will usually work with first are Gabriel. I love working with Gabriel. However, if you are a fan of the Golden Dawn system and you call up Gabriel as Archangel of Water versus Archangel of Moon, he is the only angel that I know of, and I've had quite a bit of, I've talked to quite a few people about this, and he is the only one who seems to change entirely based on how you call him. It's been a while, but if I remember correctly, when you call him as the Archangel of the Moon, he shows up as a strong individual, and he shows up as like the strength of God persona. And if you call him as Archangel of Water, he shows up very differently, and he actually shows up as a girl. So that's my UPG there. Your mileage may vary. That being said, I've just primed you all for when you next work with the Archangel Gabriel, so I'm right. Moving on. The next one up would be the Archangel Michael. Everyone likes working with the Archangel Michael. The Archangel Michael is interesting because the Archangel Michael has a very interesting way of invoking him. He has the 7 penitential psalms, and he is the solar one. And then you have the Archangel Raphael. The Archangel Raphael, Gabriel, and Michael are all part of the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. So, if you feel so inclined, you can just do the LBRP and do an invocation of them then. And I have had that be somewhat successful, but you need to really put your all into the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. And if it's your first time doing the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, that might just not happen. That just might not happen. Continuing on. We then have the Archangel of Venus. The Archangel of Venus, which would be Anael or Haniel, depending on which one you want to use. I believe it's Anael. Anael is great. I have had nothing but horror stories about working with Anael, mostly because I brought it on myself. Pro tip, Venus has thorns. Do not ask to be thrown into the rose bush of love when you call up Anael. She will gladly do it because she knows that, much like the classic rock song, every rose has its thorns. Going up, these, the next 3 are people don't usually work with. Usually people will work with these at some point just to get a feel for them, but they won't usually work with them very often. These are the Archangel of Mars, which is Kamael, the Archangel of Jupiter, which is Sachiel, and the Archangel of Saturn, which is Cassiel. Now, most people are not going to work with these very frequently. I know Cassiel straight up has the Grim Reaper appearance going on when in all evocation reports I've seen, he carries a giant scythe, which is really cool, but also, he's also kind of depressing. As you would expect from the Planetary of Saturn. Now, there are more planetary spirits. In fact, there is actually too many planetary spirits for me to list in this video, so I'm just going over the major ones. The next planetary spirit that people might be aware of is the Olympic planetaries, which come from the Orbital of Magic. The Orbital of Magic is fantastic. We love the Orbital of Magic in this channel. The Orbital of Magic is the wonderful book. I have covered the Orbital of Magic. It has been covered historically by Dr. Justin Sledge over on Esoterica. You can go find that over on his channel. I'll link it in the description for those of you who want to see the Orbital. But those spirits are a lot more, they're safe. They're very cool. They're very nice spirits to work with. That being said, I don't work with them as much. I worked with them a couple times, and I got really good results. So those are very efficient spirits. They're very effective. I've had nothing but good results with them. That being said, there's also Agrippa's spirits, and this is where I now have to enter into the realm of putting labels and disclaimers on what I'm about to say. If you don't do this safely, you will have a bad time. If you are not prepared, do not work with any of the spirits that I am about to list. It doesn't matter if you think they're benevolent, don't fucking do it. That being said, let's let's talk about Agrippa's planetary spirits. Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa put in his 3 books of occult philosophy a small list in the same section about the seals of planetary spirits. Now, this is not actually the name that he gave them. This is the name that history translated it as. If you were to go into the more modern Eric Purdue version of Agrippa, you would know that these are the planetary daemons, which was translated to spirit, but Eric Purdue left it as daemon because Agrippa seems to have been doing some subtle wordplay to get around the fact that these are more akin to fucking demons. Now, Agrippa's planetary daemons are fucking great. If you need a planetary spirit to get something done, if you call up the planetary daemon, you will have a wonderful experience. You will have a wonderful experience where nothing, like, you will get results. However, I would be remiss if I did not inform you that you need to call up the planetary intelligence, which is above the planetary daemon, to keep them in check. Because the planetary daemons are, I'm gonna just steal this analogy from Darling's channel. The planetary daemon is like a gun of pure planetary energy, and the intelligence is effectively the way you aim it. Because if you don't aim it, and you just pull the trigger, it's like just randomly shooting. Yes, you will probably hit your target, considering you're using the planetary magic equivalent of a shotgun, but at the same time, we want to be a little bit more precise. If, for all of my fans out there who are, for all my fans who understand the gun metaphor, if we're using a shotgun, we want to be using slugs, not buckshot. We want to be using a slug, and we want to be precise on target. And the intelligence is allowing us to be on target as best as we can possibly get. Now, for those of you who don't know how to do planetary magic, what do I personally recommend for your beginner practice? I recommend you do the LBRP and the middle pillar daily. But if you're going to be doing planetary magic, I highly recommend you start doing mild Golden Dawn invocations. Just to test the waters. You just want to get the energy into your sphere, meditate with it, get to know it a little bit. And after you do that, you'll start to feel changes. You'll start to if you're self-aware and you're actively paying attention to your thought processes, you'll start to think a little bit differently, because that's what initiating into a planet does. It causes you to think differently. Now, you will notice you are drawn to a specific planet more than you are others. And I recommend, if you're going to be doing this, you work with 2 planets at a time until you get to Sun. I recommend you work with the Moon and Saturn. Then I recommend you work with Jupiter and Mercury. Then I recommend you work with Mars and Venus. And then you work with Sun directly. That's how I did it. That being said, I was doing it part of Liam Thomas Christopher's book, so your mileage may vary, and maybe you just want to start with Mercury. Maybe you just want to start with Mercury. That's fine. You can just work with the archangels, and you can start praying for the archangels or praying for the invocation of the archangels, and you can start working with them. If you're going to do this approach, I recommend you start by working with the 7 planetary psalm, or the 7 penitential psalms, and doing invocations of the Archangel Michael, and starting with Sun instead, because he will help you to initiate into that system of both angelic and planetary magic. Finally, I would like to mention, if you're going to work with the planetary spirits of Agrippa, be very fucking careful. The planetary spirits of Agrippa are the most loose cannon spirits I've ever worked with. They're also some of the most efficient. They are some of the most effective, and quite frankly, they're just really fucking cool. Make of that what you will. I have been Dave, the Amateur Magus. I hope you enjoyed this video, And let me know if you want to see more content about, like, I guess more rant content. Because y'all seem to apparently like that video. This is getting recorded later than it usually is, so I actually got a chance to see the comment section on that video. So, make of that what you will, and let me know what you guys think. Take it easy. If you're having a good day, keep having a good day. If you're not having a good day, hope your day gets better. Take it easy.